Welcome back. Include NYC's mission is to promote positive futures and enhance the quality of life for New York City children and youth with disabilities, ages birth through 26, and their families. Please join me in welcoming the Executive Director of Include NYC, Cheryelle Cruickshank. Cheryelle, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I gave a little bit of an overview about Include NYC's mission, but can you tell us a little bit more about what really drives that mission?
Sure. So, what really drove all of this was 41 years ago. Three moms that had children with disabilities, they really struggled to find services, to understand what programs were out there, to even find resources like recreation. And they wanted to be able to help other families not struggle the way they did. So they started the organization, and it was called Resources for Children with Special Needs. And 41 years later, we have the same mission. We want to make sure that we can provide resources, information, supports, and services to children and youths with any disability, whether it's known or suspected. We want to support their families so that they have the information they need to make the best decisions for them regarding the services that they need, as well as so that they can develop their own advocacy bone and they can support other families in advocating for themselves.
Now, you mentioned it's been 41 years, so with that, I know that society's views on children with disabilities has evolved and changed. How has your organization evolved to kind of meet the needs of families that have children with disabilities?
So we really focus on what do our families call us for? What do they need? And based on that, for example, when COVID came, it was more important to talk about what was happening in schools for children during COVID, how children are learning, what was available to them, just how to help your children while you're home with your child. So we really pivot to what is necessary and what's being asked for at the time. So we continue to grow in that way. So we've evolved in really looking at employment and post-secondary, what's next in life for youths with disabilities. So it's all about really giving people what they need.
Now, as mentioned, there's a focus on children and young people with disabilities. What are some of the challenges that families face, or particularly the people that have the disability themselves? What are some of the challenges they face?
Access to services is always a difficult situation. Equity, being provided with the same opportunities as everyone else. Just navigating through a complicated special education system, understanding what services are available, what you can do, what are your rights. So there are many different obstacles, and as children grow and they transition, supporting them in that transition so that it's smooth, so that they know what to expect, and just really feeling like they belong and building community.
Now, I noticed on your website you mentioned that your team uses person first and identity first language. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that means?
Sure. So we are people before we are anything else. Their disability does not define them. It's just an aspect of them. So that's why we say people with disabilities, a youth that is living with autism, a person that is blind, as opposed to a blind person, an autistic child, or disabled person. But it's really important to also understand that people identify in different ways. So you have to ask the question and say, how do you want to be identified, so that we're respecting that as we go along.
And kind of expanding on that, how does that help with addressing, some of the stigma that is associated with people who have disabilities and their limitations or their abilities that they can't actually master? What are some of the ways that we kind of contribute to that stigma, and what can we do to step away from that?
So calling a person a disabled person, that's how we add to the stigma. See the person as a person and what they bring to the table, and that disability also brings other abilities. So we want to try to let people just think about people first. That's the most important thing. Whatever you need, we all need something to support us to be successful, right? Whether you have a disability or not. So it's really about, what does this person need to be most successful, and focus on that and less about what the disability is or what other challenges they may be experiencing. And that will help people to think about affording access and just respecting people for who they are.
Now, I want to talk about Include NYC's biggest event that's coming up February 1st, and that's the Include NYC Fair. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
So we are super excited because after 5 years of being virtual, this is the first time that we will be in person at the Shed, which is in Manhattan, Hudson Yards. And this is typically our biggest event. This is the epitome of our mission, providing resources and information. We have over 60 vendors that have already signed up to be there to showcase what they can provide for families. We have over 200 households that have already signed up to come to be able to meet with vendors, and we're looking for more. In the past, we've had over 1,000 people walk through the doors in that one day. It's from 10 to 3. And we're looking forward to seeing everybody. We are really excited to be in person after all this time.
And I could sense that you know the excitement that you have. Can you explain what it feels like to kind of see the event kind of have an impact on the families that attend?
So it really means so much to us to continue to really live out our mission in a day-to-day, in a way that you can touch and feel, and giving people the opportunity to talk with each other, to come together, be in community. It's a place where no one's staring if your child is making noise, because everyone is used to that in their lives. So it's really about building a place where families can feel comfortable to come and get what they need.
Now, I also want to highlight something that I think is very important, and that it's that you offer helplines in both English and Spanish. Can you talk about, the importance of accessibility, especially when we're talking about different backgrounds, cultures, and languages?
Yes, so we support the 5 boroughs of New York City. So there are multiple languages, and the ability to be able to have staff that speak both English and Spanish, and we have a language access interpretation line. So you can call us in any language and ask us any question, and we are able to communicate with you and share the resources that we have. And that you don't get better than that kind of access, right? And the ability to reach us at any time, whether that's during the time when there's someone live to answer the phone, leaving us a message, going to our website and filling out a form, or going to any of our social media and reaching out. So
Now, if you have the number, can you just let everybody know where they can go to call?
sure, so they can call 212-677-4660. That's our English line, and our Spanish line is 4668. But you can call us, and if you're speaking in an alternate language, we will get the language interpretation access and connect with you as we would with anyone else.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, because we think that's so important. As we know, New York is beautifully diverse, and in order to kind of help everyone, you kind of have to meet people where they're at. So I think that's so amazing. And then with that, can you explain, just having that available, how has it helped, people who have family members that have disabilities?
So families are able to call and feel comfortable with our staff who are educators, and many of them have children with disabilities themselves, so or at a disability themselves. So having that lived experience and the empathy that's given, it really creates an atmosphere of comfort where people can share what they need, and our educators, they find whatever is necessary, whatever resources are needed. If we don't have it right in our wheelhouse, we look for it and we get back to people.
Now, I also want to mention that not only are you empowering the children or the young person, but you're also, empowering the adult caregivers. Why is it so important that we also look at the caregivers in this situation?
Parenting is a difficult job, and parenting with a child with a disability brings additional challenges. So it's important to make sure that the parent is supported, that they have somewhere where they can go, build community, feel like people understand what they're going through. We have parent support groups. We have a podcast that's called Disability Inc., And we've done 3 episodes on seizing joy and building community. So building up families so that they can best support their children, it's so important for everyone to feel like they belong somewhere.
And then I want to talk about the podcast. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So I had the opportunity to interview 2 moms, one that started her own nonprofit, another mom who worked for over 25 years and is now retired, and also for an organization that provides support for families. And what they all had in common is how do they seize moments of joy in the midst of difficult situations. So I had great conversations that really left you feeling warm and fuzzy at the end, but really gave families thoughts around some concrete ways on that they can find joy, feeling good about taking time for yourself, not feeling guilty about wanting to do something other than care for your child. So it's been a great experience, and you could see it on wherever you watch your podcast, and we also have a YouTube page that it's posted on.
Oh, that's amazing. And I love that you're able to kind of create a community for people, because I do think that although sometimes people may have the best intentions, if you don't have that experience, you may not know how to help. With that, with people who do want to help or be supportive, what are some things that they can do?
So you can always volunteer at, for example, at our fair. We're always looking for volunteers to assist. You can give financially. We are a nonprofit organization, and funding is an ongoing struggle. So always giving helps us to expand our reach, helps us to reach more families, more communities, especially on historically marginalized and underserved communities. So giving is a way that you can help. If you want to offer a space to have an event, we have parent support groups. There are so many ways that you can give. Just contact us, and we'd be happy to discuss opportunities for giving.
Well, that's amazing. And, with that, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I think it's important to continuously educate people about the different communities in our city, and what are some of the things that they need to ensure that they feel like this city is theirs, and that they're supported. So I appreciate the work that you're doing. And I appreciate you taking the time to visit us here at BronxNet to discuss, what you're doing to support these communities. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
To learn more about their programs and the services they offer, please go to their website at INCLUDENYC.org. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recable cast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios Channel 33, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Darren Jaime on Wednesday and with Rena Valentine on Friday. I'm Kibin Alleyne, wishing you and yours a happy holiday and a wonderful new year. See you next year.